G'day everyone, I thought I would do a quick vlog to give you guys an update on all things Fragged, what I'm working on, past projects, what next year's got in store, all that kind of good stuff. So, first off, Fragged Kingdom 2, well and truly out now. It's in distribution. I am extremely happy with the books in all ways. Production value, the lore, the rules, just a look and the feel of it. Very happy with these three books. I'm really proud of them. So I hope you guys are enjoying those. Hope you're having some fun games. I love hearing people's stories. I love hearing about the characters, their campaigns. I love how people modify the lore to sort of fit their own ideas, coming up with homebrew stuff. It's all good. I love hearing that stuff. So I'm very happy with that. So a bit of an odd thing about being a creator is that by the time you've released something and it's out there and it's in the wild and everyone's starting to enjoy it, I've already moved on to the next thing because I need to start working on the next project. And I've started moving on to the next big thing, which is, as many of you would know, Fragged Kingdom 2. So I started developing this a while ago. When I was thinking about what to do next, I was looking at the current books that I've got, and I thought, okay, the big ones that I've got is Fragged Empire, Fragged Kingdom, and Fragged Eternum. Those are my best-selling works, the ones I'm the most proud of. And I thought, okay, Fragged Eternum is pretty special, but I felt like the rules and everything like that are in a pretty good spot. But Fragged Kingdom, I thought, hadn't quite reached its potential yet. And so that's why I've decided to do Fragged Kingdom 2 as my next project. So later on, I'll jump into lots of details on that one. I'll even show you some of my work in progress and my lore changes. Some bigger stuff there. The rules stuff, how it's a bit like Fragged Empire 2, but does a few different things different. I'm already thinking about ways to improve things because that's just how this works. But the big question is, when is this going to be crowdfunded? When are the books going to be available? So most likely the books, everything will be crowdfunded, not next year, but probably the year after. So 2025 for that one. I know that feels like it's a long way away. But I pretty much want to almost finish the books by the time I crowdfund it. So that way I get a nice pre-order in terms of knowing how big of a print run to do. It also means if we do a stretch goal with some extra books, I can give all of my attention to those new books, and so we don't push out our production stuff. I just think that system works well. But you can play test Fragged Kingdom 2 right now. So every Friday night, I'm playing Fragged Kingdom. Okay, that's what my regular gaming group has done. If you want to join the playtest, jump onto the Fragged Empire Discord page. I've got all the PDFs and the character and the GM sheets just in there as a pinned post. I update those every week. As soon as I've modified the rules or improved them or polished them or finished writing a new section, I just stick it straight up on Discord so everyone they're playing with the version that I'm playing with. I love to hear people's take on this. I want to hear, if you play it, it is not your job to think how to fix things and improve stuff or to problem solving. That's my job. If you play it and you just tell me, hey, this bit felt fun, this bit didn't feel that fun, this rule was not so clear, but this was very interesting. I like that. Just that sort of feedback is so useful to me. So I'd really appreciate if you guys could, if you got an interest in Fragged Kingdom, to maybe you want to join the playtest. That'd be great. Even if it's just have a look at it and tell me what it feels like to you. Cool. So what does next year got in store for me? So I've got a couple of big projects. The first one is I am going to improve my VTT support. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I've been trying to do stuff. And I finally, because the last Kickstarter went well, I set aside a chunk of money, and we've already got a developer working on this. So what I'm doing is I am producing a browser-based, I'm going to read the blurb that I've got written here. It's a browser-based web application for PCs and GMs, content management for Fragged Empire 2nd Edition, and it focuses on building characters in NPCs, so you can build your own character in the browser, build an NPC in the browser, select traits and attributes, and you track your gear, and you can click save, and you can import and export. There's a lot of features there also for if you want to homebrew stuff. You can import your own traits. But the big critical feature, apart from that useful just building your character in the browser, is that it's going to have an export feature. So as it exports out a JSON file, which can then be imported into systems like Foundry. I know Foundry is very popular with a lot of people who play Fragged. And the plan is that on Foundry, that you've got a bunch of existing systems already for managing characters. You'll be able to export and then import that into Foundry and maybe other systems like that. So the plan is hoping to crowdfund this probably March next year is the goal. And the more money we get, the more we'll put into this. Development is one of those things where it is a bit of a newer thing for me. So that's why I'm going to make sure that I've got a prototype built beforehand. And I'm confident that we can do what we're doing. We're not being too ambitious. And then the amount of money that we put into this is purely going to be based off the amount of money who we raise from the crowdfunding. Like, that's it. If we raise huge amounts of money, then lots of money will be put into the development. If we just get a moderate amount of money and it gets funded, then we're going to end up with a working system that's going to be tight and just focus on the big things. Build characters, import, export features. So I'm pretty happy with this. Its development's going along all right. It's slowing down a little bit because we've got Christmas and New Year's, but once I've got some nice stuff to show you guys, I will start sharing that on social media. The second project that I'm working on is a board game. So these are just a few quick work in progress cards that I've slapped up so you have something to look at. So I'm working with another board game designer. And he has published stuff already. He's got some things out there. And he name's Carl. I'll introduce him to you guys a bit later on. He's another Aussie. And we're working on this. So this game is going to be... Look, he's going to be able to articulate a lot more than me because he is the rules designer. Okay? I'm just there to help him develop and sort of polish things up. But the idea in this one is that you'll all take on a spaceship and you'll build out a crew and attach modules on your ship and you'll do missions. You like moving cargo around or fighting pirates and stuff like that. Researching, things like that. And you sort of build up your ship, and the person who gets the most points at the end wins. But one of the cooler things about this is it's going to be a semi-legacy game. So not hardcore legacy, just lightly so. And what this means is that as you play the game, you will swap out cards for new cards permanently in the rules. So let's say you've just discovered a new planet and you do your first mission there, survey team. Second one is help some colonists settle there, fight off some mechanids that were on the planet. And then as this happens, and the colonies get established, eventually it gets a city, and then it gets its own space station. And as this might happen, you're not only swapping out the missions to the next mission that progresses the story, the actual planet's card may also be swapped out and will do different things. So it starts off as sort of this barren planet, and eventually, it becomes a trade hub. And the goal with some of this is not just for like story, which is cool, sort of developing that things. It also means the person who owns the game, who's probably going to play it more than anybody else, they're also getting a changing and developing experience as they go. Now, of course, you'll always be able to reset your game back to the start state, so no tearing up cards or stickers and things like that. I'm particularly excited by this because I'm very, very keen for the Fragged IP to find other avenues of use, other audiences. And this is going to be my first big attempt into this. And I've been loosely trying to do this for a while, but I've always wanted to make sure I did it right. So I've always been very cautious about it. Also, I'm an RPGer. Okay. That's my core thing. That's what I love. So that's where I put most of my energy. But if this goes well, that could be really good for us RPGers. Because not only does it, help me from a business point of view, it also means that a board game could fund additional art, okay? Or maybe we get a bunch of really cool spacecraft miniatures that then we can use in our RPG. And I really like this sort of healthy cross-pollination. The RPG helps develop something like a board game, and if the board game goes well, then some of that can fund back into the RPG that helps it. So I'm very excited about this. I don't know when exactly I'll crowdfund this, but I'm hoping for mid, maybe later half of next year. I'm not going to pull the plug. I'm not going to hit the go button on this until I'm really, really, really ready with it. So I really like the bones, but just in the same as my RPGs, I like to basically finish them before I launch my crowdfunding. I want to do it the same with the board game. I want it to be playtest the hell out of this thing. I want it to be really refined, and then we hit go. Okay, so that's next year's plan. Hopefully that all pans out. Let's jump into Fragged Kingdom 2. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit of stuff that I've been working on for this. So, what are the big changes for Fragged Kingdom 2 over the first one? So, there's two main areas for this. One's the laws, one's the rules. So, law-wise, FK2 is set 200 years after FK1. So, quite a substantial shift there. Okay? So, I'll show you the map. So this is the map of the planet Acheron. So Fragged Kingdom 1 was mostly set... Sorry, I'm just going to hide that. Mostly set down here. This is where Stronghold was. This is the Arcane Bay. The Arcane Bay is this section here. Okay? So... You'll instantly notice there's a lot more nations here. So there's still a lot of wild and untamed area. All this is all forest and jungle. But you've got a bunch of different nations. And this blue one here, which is the Kingdom of Ire, that's going to be the primary one where people will play. So, what's happened with the law? So, I'm going to give you guys the quick and dirty rundown of what happened. So, the people of Stronghold and the Regency Council pushed out of Pole's Rest, and eventually the nobles won their power struggle, and they ended up recreating the Holy Kingdom of Katla, which was a big nation that spanned this whole area here. And they were wanting to return back to the glories of the old empire that used to control all this section here. Okay? Back to the old ways with slavery, and the Toladal were the rulers, and very, that stratified society. Very focused on the eternal gods, and push out the other weirdo fringe barbarian religions like the All Faith and the Tardai. Let's get rid of those. We're going back to the proper stuff. Okay? But then something happened. In the sky, people saw a battle amongst the gods. And they saw a big fiery green ball land from the heavens and crashed up north. They didn't know what this was, so they sent off an expedition team to discover what on earth this was. And what they found was the head of the goddess Neph. She had been killed And her head, decapitated head, is in the forest, bleeding out lots and lots of wilding magic blood. Okay, and then after this, a bunch of stuff happens, and a nobody by the name of a nobody twin blood found the Spear of Ire, which was Nef's lost divine weapon. And this triggers a civil war. Okay? And in this civil war, you end up with the Holy Kingdom of Katla ends up with the North. And down here, it ends up being the Kingdom of Ire. And the only reason they stopped fighting each other was because the god Ak intervenes and, like, blasts down a big fiery bolt to stop the armies fighting. Okay. After this, you've kind of got this the Holy Kingdom, very ordered, sort of old style. Then the Kingdom of Ire is much more variance in terms of different duchies have different types of styles and culture and rules, and it's a bit more free for all. Okay, so that's the quick and the dirty. You'll notice a couple of things. One is the gods are a bit more active. Two, a lot more with nations. You're dealing with more politics and economic pressures. It's not just the wilds, and that opens up a lot more options there. Another thing that happened in the story is that the dragon Langarum, so we've got some new art for Langarum, he ends up conquering Pole's Rest and Stronghold, and he's created a new people for himself called the Drasim. I will show you those. See if I can find some artwork for them. I've got some artwork. Yeah, Dead Space. Here they are. Okay, so you got the Drasim, a new sort of dragon type of playable species. So anyway, there's a lot going on with Frag Kingdom 2. Let's walk through some of the books a little bit, and I'll show you guys character sheets. So, this here is character sheet. If you are familiar with Fragged Empire, you'll say, "Oh, that's looking kind of familiar." Yes, it is. I really liked what I did with Fragged Empire 2. I really liked the refined bones of how that works. And so Frag Kingdom 2 is done in a lot of the same ways. Some of the main changes is instead of munitions, you have momentum. So in this, as you fight, you build momentum, and you can then spend that momentum to give yourself extra D6s on your attack rolls, or there's some special abilities that can trigger off that. The other big thing that's different in Frag Kingdom 2 is that in Fragged Empire, it's sci-fi. So in sci-fi, everyone's got guns. So it's very guns and cover, and sort of, everyone's sort of moving around a bit like the skirmish. Whereas in Frag Kingdom, being a fantasy game, has a much larger focus on melee combat. It's a bit closer, smaller in, zoomed in a little bit more, less to do with environmental cover, not completely absent. And so to accommodate that, and the way we've done it is I've changed how range works for Frag Kingdom. So your weapons all have an ideal range and a maximum range. So a spear, for example, might have a maximum range of 3 and an ideal range of 2 to 3. A sword might have a max range of 2 with an ideal range of 2. A bow might have like a maximum range of 80, but then ideal range, 5 to 15. And what this means is that anybody who's outside your ideal range, you get strong hit neg 1, 2. And this means if you've got a dagger, you can get in under the person with the spear and force them to pull back. Or if someone's got a bow, you might try and charge up close to them, so they're forced to sort of discard their bow and pull out their sword or their hatchet. And so you have that sort of much more sort of detailed little backwards and forwards. So those are the main changes. There's, of course, all new traits and all new weapons and all that sort of stuff. There's a couple of new species, which I'll get into. The other thing is, I am designing. I forgot to mention camps. I'll get to camps in a second. I'm also designing Fragged Kingdom to be compatible with Fragged Empire. So what this means is that if you've got Fragged Empire and you want that more detailed sort of take on melee combat, you can grab all the Fragged Kingdom stuff and use it in Fragged Empire. All of the numbers are balanced, so they work. And the same as in Fragged Empire, if you want to bring some proper real guns into Fragged Kingdom, rather than their bows and carbines and the lower tech sort of stuff. You can bring that in. You bring in your rocket launcher. Okay, so that's if you want to do that weird sort of a game. And I'm really very passionate about that point, because I want new Fragged books, even though they're different settings with new sort of takes on the rules, to be able to be contributing stuff to the existing things that are already out. And I want the existing things to also contribute to the new stuff, just to give you more options and to help you with homebrewing and things like that. So the other thing is you have a camp. So camps in Frag Kingdom are replacing spaceships. So you camp as your mobile home, okay? And you slowly build it out it's a little bit like a spaceship in that you add developments to it a bit, and it's got its own attributes, and you just put workshops in there, and it's storage space for if you want to get your plunder and your loot, and you store it in your camps before you move it around to the different towns. And I've been really enjoying this. It's not like a spaceship in the terms that it has guns and weapons. It really is a base that you bring around with you that adds to not just the logistics of your group, but also can narratively add to your group as well. So, for example, the camp has an authority attribute or a planning attribute. And the authority attribute not only can grant you extra perks, but it also gives you extra social access things. And your planning not only affects your travel speed, it can also affect sort of how you go automatically through different domains and environments and stuff like that. Anyway, there's lots of stuff here. You guys will really like the camp. From the play testing, that's been quite good. But some of you might be asking, what about the town building? So in Fragged Kingdom 1, that was a big part of it. You could build a town and a nation, a lot of that sort of things. I've decided to remove that from the core experience of Fragged Kingdom 2 because I thought it was a little niche. I thought some people in some campaigns are going to love this. Okay, they can build a whole campaign around this, whereas some are not going to really engage with it. And whereas a camp is something that's much more universal, not just in terms of the campaigns that can embrace it, but also the people at the table. Whereas a town might be, a couple of people at your table might really like it and the others not really interested. A camp is designed to be interesting to everybody at the table. My hope is that at a later point I wish to develop as a smaller supplement the nation building stuff. So it'll come with 40-page soft cover book with more options for building a village, a town, a city, and a nation for mass combat and things like that. That's my plan. Okay. The other thing that I might want to mention briefly about the lore, there's so much stuff I want to cover, is that it's leaning more into techno-magic and active gods. So you'll notice that this is a witch, and she's got witch is an enchanter, witch is a psychic, as we know from Fragged Empire, we know the real stuff is going on. And so, very technological, these little holographic HUD has popped up for her to do her arcane rolls. So I don't think I want to go into all of the lore because there's just simply too much of it. But what I do want to do is show you just a little bit of what I'm working on. So this is just the PDF that I'm slowly propagating out, and this is one of the new species. So this is a Crete. This is one of the new playable species. These guys are particularly durable. They gain a bonus to construction and forestry. They reduce all endurance damage against them by 2. Also, calm animals do not have a run-eat instinct toward them, which means they're much more friendly with animals and stuff like that. The camp gains an extra planning, but they're not quite as clever as other people. So the idea behind these guys is that the official lore is that they were created by an evil god called Dos. And he is one of the eternal gods that came from another planet. So the big creator god, Mon, he comes to a place, he creates a new planet, he creates a pantheon for that world, and then he moves on to the next world. And he's been doing this for a long, long time. And the idea is that Dos comes from one of these other worlds, and he was following in the path of Mon. And then he gets to Acheron, and he discovers that this is the last planet. Mon died here. And so he's kind of this foreign alien god. And he created the first Crete. And they were these crystallized monsters. Very destructive and the seeping corruption out of them. But being an evil god, he's very selfish, very easily distracted and bored, and he kind of forgets about the Crete and moves on. And then when he goes back to look for the Crete, he can't find them, so he just presumes they're all dead. But what the Crete did is that they actually, as they were eating some of the ore and the natural foods of Acheron, they were changing. They were becoming more flesh. And they hid underground to hide from Dos. And they hide from the gods because they do not trust them, because they meddle with stuff and they make problems. And so they're deeply suspicious of anything divine and anything magical. And they hid all through the Druidic War. And they were only discovered when the Archdruid sort of enslaved a bunch of them and used them as pawns. And so they'd been hiding on Acheron for thousands of years before anyone knew them. So there's 2 different groups of them. There's one called the Verdant Crete. That's these guys. They live up in the northern jungles, the Whispering Jungles, and the Ashen Crete live in the volcanoes in the south of the Bloodstone Desert. And there's no doubt there's more Crete hidden nations out there. So true lore, these guys are made by the Archons, and a little bit of that jumps into the setting as well. They're also not always crystal arms. They can have different parts of them can crystallize. Okay. So that's the Crete. The Drasim, which I covered a little bit before, they're the dragon ones made by Langerum. You also have the Kaltorans, favorite of the Fragged Empire setting. But these Kaltorans are different. They are different to the Fragged Empire ones. The Fragged Empire ones are defined by this sort of PTSD, shared memories, the real difficulties of their ancestors with the cannibalism. These Kaltorans are much more like the Kaltorans which the Archons created, the pre-Exion Kaltorans. They have a very hyper-specialized people. You know, you might have a family of carpenters, like multiple generations of carpenters, and they're all passing knowledge on to the next ones. And they might select partners based on sort of shared skills that they can pass on to their progeny. They're very specialized. They get more bonuses to skills, but more penalties to untrained skill, which is the opposite of Fragged Empire. And they also don't have unwanted ancestral memories. Instead, they come with a prejudice, such as a grudge or a rivalry or a hatred towards a group or a people type or a monster, because they struggle to get rid of these sort of vendettas or things that happened, like maybe their great-granddad got wronged, or maybe they lost a family member to some particular monster, and that leaves a scar in their genetic memories, which they pass on. There is also optional rules if you want to do a more Fragged Empire styled Kaltoran. So maybe you're a Kaltoran from a rougher background without such a pure lineage. And if you want to go that sort as well. But I'm very happy with the Kaltorans. It's sort of a different take on them. We've got the Legion. Oh, this artwork, which it's getting worked on at the moment. I'll show you some of the stuff with this one. So the Legion, of course, we're all very familiar with them. There's a couple of different types of Legion. There's the the Southern Barbarian Legions, but then you have the little knights and stuff like that. So this is a Radiant Warrior. It's a techno-magical sort of paladin who follows the goddess Jop Jop, who is it's kind of the goddess of justice and vengeance. She's a little nuts, a little intense. We might put it that way. Anyway, so there you go. Well, I won't cover the Legion. I'll be talking forever. I'm covering all the lore. We've got the Remnant, Toladal, of course, they're coming back. The Twyfar. Twyfar are much more prominent in Frag Kingdom 2. In FK1, they were kind of mysterious, do they not exist, sort of on the fringes. There's not many of them. Whereas in FK2, there's whole nations of Twyfar. And the Farron are not just bonded to Twyfar, they can bond to other species now as well. So there's some of that. Also, they're one of the main bad guys as well. The Drasong clan. So just to check with them. The Twin-Blooded, that's if you've got parents who are like a Legion or a Kaltoran parent. So I'm looking forward to fleshing those out. The Chompers are back, of course. I really like the Chompers, sort of developing their lore on them. They're the swarming bad guys. Different types of other ones. We've got different types of enemies to fight. Vampires. I love this picture. It's just a vampiric Toladal. It's kind of funny. A little ankle biter. I wonder how he gets to people's necks. He probably needs a step ladder or something. We've talked about dragons, much bigger. There's not just Langrim. Langrim is the demigod, the king of kings of the dragons, who's absorbed other dragon kings into him using wilding magic. So he's one of 3 demigods in the setting. We've of course got the spirits and the elementals. Still working on it. Giants. Giants are a much larger part of the lore. There's a whole big, huge nation off to the west across the ocean where they serve the god Ugrathok, who's a god of consumption and insects. He's a giant Oni that is the size of a mountain, but he's so big his limbs have atrophied. And so he's got a whole nation of servants that bring him food and do his bidding. He's not a very happy individual. But anyway, giants, very cool. Trolls. So I want to tell you my take on trolls. And if you want, you can read the text, but I'm not going to share it specifically because my current campaign with my players are doing a lot with trolls, and I don't want to do spoilers for them. So that's all coming together well. The rules are being developed. I'm slowly writing those out. It's taking. It's sort of a good opportunity to not just add a couple of extra things to the rules, but also to continue to polish up how things are explained. So I'm slightly modifying how I'm doing complications. I really like drive complications from FE2, so they're a bit more front and center. We also have to have some rules for arcane rolls, of course, much more prominent in FK2. It's a big part of it. And, rules for mounts and things like that. Anyway, the rules are coming along well. These things, I'll be polishing these up for a long, long time. But, so far it's good. I'm going to quickly flick down. Oh, yes, that's Kethwick. That's the capital of the Kingdom of Ire. We're doing up the NPC types a lot. If you played FE2, this will all look very familiar to you. We're going to have a very big bad guy section in the book. This is a Drasong Twyfar. So these are one of the big bad. These are like bad guys from the desert. Very angry. In this book, I'm going to have a lot more sample NPCs. And that is primarily just because I don't have the spaceship rules in the rulebook. So I got a lot of extra spare pages. It's not just freed me up to like flesh out a few other sections a little bit more freely, but also give me lots of room for pre-made NPCs. And I think people will find that really useful. And these are the base weapons. I'm very happy with how they're all working out. So, yeah, everything from daggers and short swords all the way to billhooks and halberds, and warbows and siege bows and all that sort of good stuff there. Yeah, it's all coming together well. I'm very happy with it. And, yeah, let me know if you've got any questions in the comments. I'm an open book. Okay, take care, guys.